Good morning. Welcome, Precious Bishalach, 1992. That was addressing the women, the Jewish women and girls, all Jewish women and girls, each and every one of us, and the significance and part that we have in bringing the Geulah, the true and complete redemption, especially as women. The women, we are the reincarnation of the women in the desert, the women who came out of Egypt, and they were the ones who had very strong faith. And it says that in that generation, the Geulah came in merit of the women. And the rabbis say that in the merit of the women of each and every generation, the Geulah comes, the redemption will come. So the Rebbe says, especially since our generation is the reincarnated souls of the women who came out of Egypt, and it said in their merit, we came out of Egypt. The Rebbe says, in our merit, the women of our generation, the Geulah, the true and complete redemption, will take place. And we do see in our generation very, very much. We talked about this yesterday. Welcome, Chavarachel, that really the women have a significant, very important part in the coming of the Geulah, and they're very influential, very powerful, very significant in our generation, much, 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 much more than has been noticeable or possible for women to have an influence in previous generations since the creation of man. Women, much, much more women are taking much more leadership roles on all levels of leadership, and even and especially in the area of the spiritual Torah and mitzvahs, chassidus. I was boasting a little bit how I got the merit to help my son prepare for his mimer, giving over the chassidus mimer that he gave over at his l'chaim on Sunday night. So that's the schus of the Rebbe. That's the schus of the Rebbe's influence, setting up, making sure there was a school that I could go to and learn Chassidus. There was a Blazer Nanis who taught me Chassidus privately, who connected me, made me feel that my Marim, learning Maimas, which is deep Chassidus, is for me. Started at 16. He had the vision, and he told me when I was 16, 17, he said, you're going to go teaching women out. He said, I have students in Brazil, I have students in Crown Heights, I have students, they're teachers, and they head organizations. And I was like, poor me, little me, 17 years old, from a little, unknown family. I wasn't from a Chabad family. I'm going to go out into the world and teach Chassidus. That, to me, that was like, so good luck. I'm glad he has that vision, but it wasn't at all even in my radar. So, but that was Rebbe's vision, and he imparted it to Rebbe, and he taught me, saying, I'm teaching you so that you will teach others. It wasn't just for me. So welcome, Sean. So that is what we see in our generation. So yeah, and the mimer that I chose for him to say, it was all divine providence. I was in Crown Heights for his l'chaim for one night, and I decided after Shachris, I'm going to go across the street to the bookstore and see if I can see any books. So then when I was there, I was thinking, I should get him a book maybe for the mimer, to say the mimer. So I called him up and asked him which one he wants, if he wants, and he said anyone, basically, any mimer. So I looked around at the different mimers and found one in English that I thought would be appropriate and good. I looked inside. I read the inside. It's not like I just randomly took one from the shelf. And at first he was hesitant to use that one. He tried another one. We tried learning another one together. That one didn't seem to jive so well. I said, this is a really good mimer, the one I found for you. So he did it and he loved it. And it ended off with the message that we've been learning. It also discussed the messages that we've been learning the last few weeks in this class about bringing holiness into this world and the merging of the two. And that happens through Torah and mitzvahs. And it ended off with the whole Mashiach thing. Idea that this is what brings Geulah, merging godliness and spirituality and holiness within the physical. So that's just another example and a proof, and I'm sure all of you do this also in your realm. You're influencing all those around you with all the chassidus that you're learning every day and inspiring people. And so the Rebbe says specifically here, the women of the home have the influence on their children and on their husbands, and then on all the people around them. Too, and it's also, he said, we see this practically also with the women. They light the Shabbos candles first before the men even bring in Shabbos. That was another point that he brought. And let's see, there was another point about how the women are the influence. First of all, he said that this whole mimer, that the day of the previous Rebbe passed away, Yud Shvat, which is coming up this Shabbos, he said he prepared a mimer for that Shabbos in the merit of his mother and his grandmother. The Yortzeit of his grandmother was on the 10th of Shvat, which was the day he passed, his neshama went up, and the 13th was his mother. Now the Rebbe also talked about the tzaddik, when his Yortzeit, his neshama goes up, it's not, God forbid, leaving the world. Remember we said the neshama of a tzaddik never actually leaves. When it says it rises up, it doesn't mean it's leaving. It just means that it's going into a different realm, a different dimension, that's actually, according to Chassidus, according to Kabbalah, the Zohar, is more present in the world, much, much more, not just in this physical world, the spiritual worlds and the physical world. The soul of a tzaddik is much more prevalent and present and accessible. It's just that in the physical body, it's not seen. So it's just, once it finishes doing what it needs to do with the physical body, then it goes into a different realm, which is actually so more accessible than it was when it was limited into a finite body. Okay, those are a little synopsis of some of the things we learned. Now we're going on to the whole idea of the woman dancing. Dalet. So paragraph 4. Yesh להוסיף, we have to add, מעלתן של נשי ישראל מודגשת גם בפרשת בשלח, בקביעות כמה שנים שהם העלו לך בשבוע בפרשת בשלח. We have to emphasize that this advantage that the Jewish women have, is emphasized in the Parsha of Beshalach, as it is that the many years the Hilula, the Yortzeit of the previous Rebbe comes out on the Parshas Beshalach. And this year it does. It comes out not just in the week of Parshas Beshalach, it comes out on Parshas Beshalach, on Shabbos. So it's even more relevant this year than, because the actual story that we read of the women dancing and singing, that the Rebbe is going to talk about now, happens on the Yortzeit this year, on Shabbos. Parshas Beshalach, Parshas Beshalach, it tells us about the song on the sea, of this Red Sea. As Moshe and Moshe and the Jewish people sang. Afterwards, ותיקח מרים הנביאה אחות אהרון את התוף בידה ותצאנה כל הנשים אחריה בתופים ובמחולות ותען להם מרים שירו להשם מגומם. Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took the drum or the tambourine in her hand, and all the women went after her and followed her. Okay, she was a leader. בתופים ובמחולות, with drums and with dances. But Miriam responded to them and she said, Shul Hashem, sing to Hashem, etc. The Torah records what she said. Shul Hashem ki go'uka. Shebazeh, mudgeshet malat hanashim al hanashim. This story emphasizes the advantage of the woman above and beyond the men. Shashira shelahen hayta mitoch simchaita. Why? The story is telling us how they sang with extra joy. They had tambourines and they were drums and they were dancing. They were so excited. They were so happy. Not only that, they were so strong and confident. These righteous women, the tzidkanios of that generation, that Hashem is going to make them and doing for them miracles. And they knew Hashem will make for them miracles. They took tambourines or drums out of Egypt with them. So when they were escaping and running and barely had a moment to pack, then they had to go immediately, right? It said they actually went quickly. They didn't forget the very important part of their suitcase, their drums and their tambourines. It's very interesting. I'm just having this vision. Many years ago, I was in Israel, and I was by the Arizal's kever. Many years ago, this is a couple decades ago, by the Arizal's ohel, where he's his body's buried, but it's, on the Tzfas on the mountain over there. And somebody was selling drums, those Tzfas drums. They're very, they look, you don't get them in Los Angeles, put it that way. So I bought a drum, a big drum, and I'm taking it with me in my suitcase. It was so ridiculous to do it because it was huge. It was one of the, but I said, I can't get it in LA and I want one of them. So I took it. It came apart, the top part and the bottom part. So in the end, I gave it to my son and daughter-in-law later on, after we used it for many years. Okay, anyway, so they packed in their suitcases drums, okay? If they had suitcases, I'm sure they didn't have wheels on their suitcases. Whatever they put on their donkeys, they carried on their donkeys things, and they managed to squeeze that in last second. Why? Because they had the confidence that they were going to have miracles. So that's the point that we need to take from this. That right in this class, we try to remember as much as possible. We encourage women to share their miracles. Whenever you have a miracle, everybody's excited to hear your miracles again, because this puts us into the mindset that the Rebbe wants us to look for miracles, and that's what these women were doing. They anticipated, were looking for the moment that they'll have a miracle, and they're going to take their tambourines and dance and sing. So now the Rebbe is going to talk about explaining how the woman and Miriam's singing was more joyous. And he's going to explain a Yesh Lomar, his own chiddush, there was chiddush on this concept, on this idea. It says in the Midrash. So first he quotes what the Midrash says. Miriam Hashem Hamiru. Miriam was named because of the bitterness. Because there was a lot of pain and a lot of hardship. He didn't say pain, he says hardship. In the slavery was in a way that the Egyptians made bitter the lives of the Jewish people with the slave labor. And that happened, Mishal Dam Miriam, from when she was born into that. It was B'meshech Pevav Shanaf for 86 years. Arba Shanim Lifnei Ledat Moshe. This took place already. She was born 4 years before Moshe Rabbeinu was born. And after, I guess, after it says afterwards, or through their pain or through their hardship, Hashem established for them Goel, Redeemer, Zo Miriam. That is Miriam. So I guess it was already 86 years they were in slavery when she was born. That's what it sounds like from this, the way the Rebbe presents it. And it says, I'm going to read you footnote 63. Masha Katuv beYocheved and Miriam. It says about Yocheved and Miriam. Vayas lahem batim. Hashem made them homes, houses, right, as a reward for not killing the babies as midwives, like they were threatened by Pharaoh to do. And what is these homes? Rashi explains, Kehuna u'Levia miYocheved u'Malchut miMiriam. The Yocheved gave birth to her offsprings, had a kahuna, priesthood, and Levia, being Levim and Kohanim. And Miriam gave birth to children who became kings, Malchus, right? The tribe of Yehuda was the kings, came from Miriam. Now, it says David, Miriam, King David came from Miriam. That's in the Midrash. So even from this Midrash, we understand that the future Redeemer, Mashiach, will come from Miriam, right? Because Mashiach, it says, it's from the house of David. So, and it says in the Midrash, David came from her offspring. So the Rebbe is a descendant of Miriam. He came from the house of Yehuda, of King David. Okay? Pretty good. All the Chabad Rebbe's were from the house of David also, from Yehuda. They have a lineage to the Maharal of Prague, and the Maharal of Prague had lineage to King David. King David had lineage to Yehuda, and she married into the tribe of Yehuda, so she was the mother, the matriarch of all these righteous kings, okay, including the old Chabad rabbis. Pretty good, huh? So Miriam, though her name was bitter, Mar is bitter. So Miriam has the word bitterness in it. And it was because of the bitterness, the hardship of the slave labor in its time. But it says this hardship was what brought about the redemption. Okay. The Geulah came because Miriam felt and pained her the bitterness of exile. Yesh Lamar, the Rebbe says, we can say, the Be'u, explaining this medrash, that the Redeemer was Miriam because of the bitterness, the Merur, the Chor Merur, Geulah, it seems like Geulah and bitterness are two opposites, but the Rebbe turns it around. He says the Geulah Haital Yedei Zeh Miriam Ergisha V'Kava B'Yoter Merur, because Miriam felt, she was sensitive, and she felt the pain, and it pained her, hurt her more, the bitterness of the exile. So she took it to heart, and because she felt the pain, she did something about it, and that is what brought the redemption. Ubektet, right? Like the Rebbe gives goes back and says, first of all, we have to see what the rabbi says, quoting the rabbis. How did Miriam bring about this Geulah? Okay, how did Miriam be the one who changed because she felt the pain and the bitterness? She brought about the Geulah. And it says, first of all, let's quote the Medrash. The rabbis say on the pasuk that when Miriam took the tambourine, it says Achot Aaron v'lo Achot Moshe. It calls her in the Torah. It says Miriam, the sister of Aaron, took the tambourine. Why the sister of Aaron, not Moshe? Medrash says because she gave this prophecy when she was the sister of Aaron, before Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and she said, "Atida imi sheteled ben she'eshit Yisrael." My mother is going to give birth to a son who will be the redeemer of the Jewish people. Okay? Listen to our girls. They have something important to say. She was right, they say she was like 4 years old, or 3 years old. Since they threw him into the river, his father, he said, hey, little Miriam, tapped her on her head, it says, and he says, where's your prophecy that he'll redeem us when they put Moshe into the river? That's why it says she stood from afar. She didn't let him go, just go on his own into the river. She stood from afar and followed him and watched what's going to happen to him. Okay. And what did she, it says, the Medrash says, she wanted to know what will come of her prophecy. She had a prophecy. She had this insight, this understanding that he's going to be the Redeemer. She knew it in herself. And here he was, it looked like it was not happening. But she still held on hope. And she went to see how is her prophecy going to come about? How's it going to happen when he's in the river? Okay, what's going to be in the river? How's it going to turn around? Something's going to happen. She knew it. So she stood there to watch how it's going to happen. Her prophecy was about the Geulah, that he'll Yoshiat Yisrael, redeem the Jewish people. From that time, she was waiting with anticipation. How will her prophecy come out? It's like we know, it's like we learn, ladies, let's compare. Whoever wants us to compare. We're learning Sichas of the Rebbe that Geulah is coming, and we're looking around. How is it manifesting? How's it coming out in the news? How's it coming out in the the stories that we know? But the people that are sharing their miracles. How is this? Like let's see. How's Hashem making this maneuver? Sometimes it looks like it's happening. Sometimes it looks like it's not happening. So in this case, it looked like it wasn't happening. He was being put into the river, and she was looking though to see, anticipating how it's going to happen, how her prophecy will come about. As the Gullus went on longer and longer, the more bitter she was, the more pain she was, right, about this lengthening of the exile. It doesn't say pain, it says it was bitter. Yeah, so that's painful. Bitterness is not fun. Miriam This bitterness was expressed in her name, and we know the name expresses the person's essence, right? So we have Chava, and we have Brahma, and we have we have so many wonderful names here, and Nechama, and Yehudit, and all these names. It expresses our essence. So Miriam had a name though that seems a little bit, bitter, right? Okay. However, through her bitterness of the exile, Miriam Hashemot, that tzipiyah, that made her have more anticipation, more chukah, more desire, la Geulah, for the redemption. Like it says, she was the one who stood there and waited to see what will happen to Moshe. And because of her, Jewish people had merited the Geulah. And it says here, Hashem put a redeemer, that's Miriam. Miriam redeemed him. And her prophecy was fulfilled through her. Losif, and to add, this is the same thing that happened with Rachel, emphasized with Rachel Imenu. It says that when the Jewish people went out of Israel, Rachel went out of her grave, so to speak, like her neshama, bocha is crying and begging, Alehem achamim rachmanas, mercy for her children. It says a sound is heard in the Ramah up above, and it's heard Rachel is crying for her children, and she is refusing to be comforted. The Kadosh Baruch Hu Mashiach Hashem returns and replies to her, Yesh tzachar lifulotech, there is reward for your activities. Ne'um Hashem. Veshavu banim ligvulam, and your children will return to their borders, meaning they'll come back to the land of Israel. So when they were on their way out of Israel, she's crying, and it says Hashem heard her cry and said, "Don't worry." And said, "Don't worry." He says, "There will be reward for your deeds, and your children will return." So she's given that promise. So this is similar to Miriam crying over the exile, and she was the one who brought about actually the redemption and her time. The Rebbe says, according to the bitterness, how much greater the bitterness is on the exile, like Miriam, she was very bitter. As you see in her name, that was how much greater the joy ala Geulah, for the Geulah. Like it's the rabbis say, according to the pain is the reward. The funza aga. Miriam took the tambourine in her hand, or the drum in her hand, but that said, and all the women went after her with tambourines and dancing. So it wasn't just Miriam, all the women. And we do see, it's amazing, because I've been painting tambourines for, I don't know, over 30 years, maybe. And yeah, so that was this in 1992. Yeah, so it's over 30 years. We've been painting and bringing out tambourines and hanging tambourines on our walls, and thinking about this idea that the Rebbe brought here. And now, in our times, in the last few years, it's really blown up. It's finally it used to be just a Chabad thing, and now it's actually become a very mainstream idea within the Jewish women, that they all have many, most, I think, probably, who knows? I haven't checked, but it's become a very common thing for Jewish women to know and have tambourines ready for the Geulah. It's not like it was 30 or 20 or even 10 years ago. Okay. Then we finished, wait, there's one more. Now, another sweetening there, but gives another little beautiful point, that the prophecy of Miriam over the Geulah was said in the scriptures in Torah, in the Shira, the song of on the ocean. It says, "V'tikach Miriam took, the sister of Aaron, took the drum in her hand, and all the women went after her, singing, dancing." Key, why? When the Jewish people saw it, Mitzrayim, they saw the Egyptians dead on the bed of the ocean after they had, tried to kill them. They were now not afraid of the Egyptians anymore. The prophecy of Miriam was fulfilled, al Geulat Yisrael v'Shemut, over the redemption of the Jewish people completely and fully. So also, the joy of the Geulah was also complete, with with drums and with dancing. So okay, so there was a completion and a wholeness to the redemption to the redemption, and that was a fulfillment of her prophecy, which she said that Jewish people are going to be redeemed. Right? She said that when she was a little girl, and now so this came to fullness completely and wholly when they saw not only they left, but all those who were pursuing them were dead, and so the joy was completely and holy, and they fully manifest, and they danced and they sang with the drums. That's Dalet Hey. What's this advantage of the women singing with the sound of Miriam, with drums and dancing? Mudgeshet od yoter b'haftara v'tashad is also emphasized even more and enhanced when we read the Haftarah of Devorah. Okay, hold on, ladies. Now we're going to Devorah, one more righteous woman that the Rebbe is mentioning here. She was significantly part of the turning of history in her time and bringing redemption to the Jewish people in her time. So it says about the song of Devorah, she sang after they won their enemies. גם שירת הנשים מרים ובנשי ישראל מכל מקום לא מפטירים בשירת הנשים כשביעי של פסח שמפטירים בשירת ערבית אלא בשירת נשים שירת דבורה. The Rebbe notes a very noteworthy point, and he says there's a lesson for us from this. The point is that in this week's parsha they choose a haftarah of a woman singing a song rather than a man, even though in the Torah portion itself we also have the men singing. Moshe Rabbeinu also sang as Yashir, and the women sang. And the holiday of the seventh day of Pesach, when we read about the splitting of the sea, that haftarah, they bring a song that David HaMelech sang, a song of a man. Whereas in this week's parsha, Parshas V'Shalach, which are coming to the Shabbos, the haftarah is a song of a woman. So the Rebbe says, why? Why did they choose a song of a woman? Even though in the Torah portion that we read it talks about also the song of a man, Moshe Rabbeinu. And one of the reasons the Rebbe says for this is, because the song of the woman, Miriam, was in a way that was much higher than the singing of the men, because the woman took the tambourines and they danced, like we said before. So they had extra joy, extra preparation, extra foresight, extra transformation of bitterness to joy. So their joy was so much beyond. So therefore, the haftarah is a song of a woman. And we know haftarah itself. Why do we read a haftarah even after the Torah reading? It's connected to the idea of exile. Why? Because there was a gazushma, so there was a time where they wanted to they made bad decrees, the non-Jews made bad decrees on the Jewish people, that they weren't allowed to read in the Torah itself on Shabbos. So they enacted, the rabbis, that we should read from the prophets instead of the Torah portion, but they took from the prophets something that was connected somehow to the Torah portion of that week. So that was from a bitterness of exile that we have this whole idea of the rabbis enacted that we read the haftarah. Yesh Lomar. So the Rebbe here is going to give his insight, and of course the Rebbe always turns everything around to something good. Shehad Gashat Ma'alat Hanashim B'Haftarah, that emphasizing the advantage of the women in this haftarah, that they bring the song of Devorah. Ikra Benogel is Managalut. The main aspect is Nogeh, is relevant to the time of Galus. Hainu Ma'alat Avodat Tanshan L'Sheisel. It's teaching us that the advantage and the service of the woman, the Jewish righteous woman, the Shinsit Kaniyot, the holy righteous woman, is mala. It's very advantageous, very high level, very important. It's emphasizing the importance of the women, the holy righteous woman. Similar to the service of Devorah during exile. In their merit and in their reward for their deeds of the women, Yotzin mina galut el Geulah, we're going out of Galus into the Geulah, as it says in the Midrash and in the Gemara. And I'm going to read you footnote 79 because it's talking about the song of Deborah. She sang her song because they won the war, okay, which she predicted, right? And she encouraged and she told the Jewish people to go fight. So her singing was about the victory of the Jewish people at war, which is encompassing our deeds, our service during the whole time of exile, to win the concealments and the coverings of Hashem, where we don't see Hashem in the news, we don't see Hashem in the stories that are coming out. We think, not like though the unholy people and the non-Jews and the people who don't believe in Hashem. We look and we search for Hashem even when He's hidden, when it looks like it's bad and Hashem is not behind anything, God forbid. So this is our avodah, to win the coverings and the concealments of this world. This gives a completion to the pleasure and joy above in heaven when we see through the veil, we pierce through it, we overcome and we win the concealments of this world. That's revealed in the Geulah. Like it says, winning victory is Yerushalayim, and it's explained in Chassidus at length. And he's going to explain how Netzach, the victory, is also, the Rebbe is going to explain it even more in chapter 11 of this Sticha, I guess. Chapter 11, I'm not sure, or chapter 11 somewhere. In Torah, or maybe that's, in the Chassidus, it's explained how the victory is connected to Geulah. So it's our obligation, okay, if I might take from this footnote, to look for the victories. Look for all the victories of us overcoming the concealments of Galus. So if we hear bad news, God forbid, shouldn't hear any bad news. We need to pierce through the veil and look for the victories, okay, and transform the darkness into the light, the bitterness of the Galus into our victory and our hope and our anticipation of Geulah. Okay, so that's footnote 79. Let's go back into the text. So we finished paragraph 5 over here. Paragraph 6. There is going into more detail. The beginning of the Haftarah are alluded to and hinting to the most essential things in the service of the Jewish women, that in their merit the Geulah came or comes. One is Dva Isha Neviah Eshet Lapidot. First of all, it says she was a prophetess. She was the wife of Lapidos. Lapidos, what does it mean, Lapidos? Eshes Lapidos. Shaita osa petilot lamikdash. She used to make wicks for the Beis HaMikdash, or the Mishkan Shiloh. The dugmato behamikdash bebito shel kol echad v'echad miYisrael. We can learn from this. Each and every one of us, Jewish people, we have a Beis HaMikdash. We have an effect, and we, the Jewish women and girls, light the Shabbos candles. And Yantav, lehayir, to illuminate, et habayit kolo, the whole entire home. Through our home illuminated, we illuminate the whole entire neighborhood or area around us. The entire world. Similar to the ptilot, the wicks, to the Beis HaMikdash that were made, that shined the whole Mikdash, the whole world, that brought light into the world. Okay, so it's a very, like every little nuance you can see and look into it. Whenever it says the women light up the world, okay, but he doesn't say straight away the world. He says they light up their homes. Through lighting up the homes, they illuminate the area around them, the neighbors or the area that they live in. It doesn't say parameters. But through that, they also illuminate the whole world. So it starts with a little wick, with a little candle that seemingly, hopefully, we think maybe will have an effect in our home. The Rebbe says, surely it does. It doesn't just affect the little four corners of our home, it affects the people in our home and our holy space, and that affects the entire world around us and then the entire world beyond it. So it's like a ripple effect. Now, thinking about it, just I had a thought. When we were lighting candles, let's say before we had the internet, or before we had digital cameras that were like able to share pictures all around the world, we did not perceive this idea of we're illuminating the entire world. We thought of it only as a spiritual illumination, right? But and somehow, some sort of higher realm, maybe there's a illumination somehow, but we can see tangibly now. A woman is when she's lighting her Shabbos candles, and it's videoed and it's pictured and then it's spread and then it's posted and then it's posted even more. We really do see how you're lighting a Shabbos candle, and our candles, like my candles right here on our video, and somebody in Alaska or in the Ukraine or in India can see my Shabbos candles and can see, yeah, there's candles that she lights on Shabbos to illuminate her home. And it's affecting women all the way there, knowing that we Jewish women have the power to illuminate the world, physically and spiritually. It's a very significant. And we usher in the holiness of Shabbos with the holiness of our candles, and we have the mitzvahs of the women, and we are the women who have the faith, and we are the women who have the power to transform darkness into light. Right? All these ideas are much more visual and much more perceived in our generation than ever before, how we really physically and spiritually illuminate the world. Okay, I just had that thought. It's really, it's not just a spiritual, it's even physical, which is what the Rebbe says is important to bring the holiness into the physical. Okay, now 2. Not only that, this Haftarah says, he yoshevet tachat tomer dvar. She sat under tomer, a palm tree. It was called the palm tree of Devorah. She was a judge. She would judge people. Men would come. And so she didn't want to take them into her private home to judge them, or private area or whatever, even if it was a public area. She didn't want to do it indoors. She did it outdoors in public where everybody could see, so she would not have the problem of being yichud, of being secluded with a man in a dwelling, wherever it was. Okay, Shehud Gavav and Motzel. She took a palm tree because it's very, very high. It's not like a bush that you can be hidden underneath it. So, and doesn't even have, it's a palm tree, it doesn't even have shade. And not a fin, but the Rebbe says shade means it doesn't have branches that cover below it and you can hide. Nobody can be secluded with her like you could in a home. So this emphasizes the idea of tznius, the advantage of being modest. The glory and the honor of a woman is indoors. And we see this in the Shira of Devorah in her song. It says, Minashim ba'ohel tevorach, women from the tent will be blessed. Ma nashim sheba'o sarifka chavela. We're talking about the women that are in the tent of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. This is the foundation on which we're nishan. Nishan is to lean on. The existence, the kiyum of Kol Bais Yisrael, of all the Jewish people. It's the women being holy, right? Being careful, being modest, not to be secluded with other men. This is the blessing that comes to the Jewish people. Minashim tovorach, from ba'ohel, the women in the tent. They're the tent of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. I remember there's a woman who's her son-in-law is a non-Chabad rabbi here in town, and I had her speak. When she was younger, she went and had a chiddush with her father. Took her to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. They weren't Chassidim of the Rebbe, but she was in tremendous depression after postpartum depression, and the Rebbe took her to, and her father took her to a chiddush with the Rebbe. In those days, you can come speak to the Rebbe privately. And the Rebbe said to her, you should keep teaching. She was teaching in Bais Yaakov, and the Rebbe said, you should still keep teaching, don't give up, and tell all the girls that they are the daughters of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. So this, and the Rebbe apparently said this to more women, not just to her. And the Rebbe is saying it here in the Sichatas, this very important Sicha, to remember, right, to know that we are in the tent of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Okay, in their Ohel. So, what's the whole existence of the Jewish people relies on this, that we're from these holy, righteous women, and we're keeping our modesty. According to this, we can explain what it says at the end of the Haftarah, that the land was quiet for 40 years, meaning there was no wars or anything. No threats of wars for 40 years. Even though it wasn't Devorah who wrote this, whoever wrote the book, he wrote that he added on an addendum that 40 years after this episode with Devorah, the land was quiet for 40 years. But what's alluded here, that through the activities and the way of being and what they've done, the Jewish women, the righteous women, that went in the way of Devorah, they were merited having the land quiet for 40 years. Until the fullness of the Tishkotat, the land of Israel was quiet. Like will be when we go into the whole 10 lands, right? The lands on the other side of the Jordan River, the east side of the Jordan River, like happening now, the Geulah in the true and complete redemption. With the 40 years, like it says, it will be with a full misah, full sovereignty, ula shalom, and it will peace ein ketz forever and ever. And we see this is what exactly is going on. We've been taking note of this, that we were a little over a year ago, before October 7th, we were learning this idea that the Rebbe said that we're going to take over the land of the Kenik Nisi Kanmoni, the land of Israel, that was promised us on the east side of the Jordan River. And the Rebbe said it was going to happen in ways of peace and pleasantness, with the nations of the world asking us to take over. We're seeing that exactly going on the last few weeks. That's what's going on. It's so amazing to be able to see the miracles unfolding exactly like it was told to us it would be. It was told to us here in Shir Sbara. Said this over 30 years ago. He said that it's going to be like in the time of Devorah, and it will be in the merit of the women being modest, that we go in peacefully into these lands on the other side of the Jordan River and take over peacefully and have dominion that will be there forever and ever. And I just also read recently that the army said they're never leaving those areas of Syria that they took over. That's on the east side of the Jordan River, and they said, we're staying forever. They're not, and the people there want them to stay. A most amazing miracle, and not one soldier was injured or killed when they went over into there to take over. They were invited, and not so much right away invited. They had the chutzpah of going and taking over, but then the people there said, we want you to stay and we want you to be here. And that's what's going on. Unbelievable. This is we read this last year. We didn't have this happen, this thing to celebrate. Here's happening. Amazing. It's very exciting. Okay. Let's finish the paragraph. Oh, we finished the paragraph 6. So I think we'll stop right here. But the Rebbe is applying this whole idea to our generation, and the yortzites of that were coming up the Shabbos. So and how it is in our times that we're getting ready for the true and complete redemption through the women, and through the women singing and dancing, transforming the bitterness of the exile into the joy of the Geulah. So that we're going to learn tomorrow, God willing. And then we'll do the Parshas B'Shalach Sikha after that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, another 7 pages after that. So we have, today is, what's today? Okay, we have Tuesday, Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, today's Tuesday. Yeah. So we have three days.
Today's 6.
Okay. We'll be able to do it. God willing, finish the post.
Well, we have to really do our victory dance today. Like,
Yes.
they have to really live it because
Yes.
this is
Okay.
happening.
Okay. And okay, I'm going to turn off the recording then so that we can do the victory dance. Okay.
Can you hear me?